RP fam, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I'm going to go over the top 15 options at tight end and defenses, trying to get you guys all the information that you are going to need to make the best decisions possible. Go out and get a dub in a crucial week 15. I love to answer your questions, so make sure you drop those down below. I will give you a pretty detailed response, should get back to you fairly quickly as well. And by doing that, we both get better. That is what it's all about. Now, if you are new to the channel, I would greatly appreciate you subscribing. That continues to move us forward. We've already hit our goal of 500. We are on our way to 1,000, and you can help us get there. If you find yourself enjoying the content halfway through the video, crush that like button for me and get it out to people who may not have seen it yet. With that said, done, and out of the way, let's hop into Week 15's tight end rankings. As usual, I'm going to start with Travis Kelce, who has not dropped outside of tight end 15 at all this season, but it should be noted that 2 out of his 3 worst outings on the year have come over the last 2 weeks. Now, does that actually matter? No, not really, because he's been locked and loaded since week number 1. He is not going anywhere, and I would be blown away if he does not score a touchdown against Houston. To tier 2, it is TJ Hockenson, who continues to be heavily targeted and turned in his second top 10 performance in the last 3 weeks against the Lions. Hawk offers both a solid floor and excellent upside, and has overtaken my next dude without question, who happens to be Mark Andrews at the top of tier 3. He now faces a big question mark at the quarterback position. In addition to the injuries he has been playing through, he is still an excellent option though. He's posted tight end 1 finishes in 3 out of his last 4. He has 50 yards or more in each of those games, so I am sticking with him even in a bottom 7 matchup. George Kittle is my next tight end at number 4. He has not flashed at all in the last 3 weeks, but he's been serviceable with at least 20 yards in every game this season. I think no Debo for this team means more looks for Kittle, and he will capitalize that against Seattle. The Seahawks allow over 14 points a game to tight ends. That is second most in the NFL. Dalton Schultz rounds out my top 5. He has been balling for a month plus with 3 top 5 finishes in his last 5 games. Any offensive piece against Jacksonville is a good one, but it is an added bonus that the Jags are allowing 11 points per game to the position. That is 7th most in the league. Schultz also has 16 targets in his last 2 games, so you can count on the volume. At the top of tier number 4 is Greg Dulcich, who gets back into the good graces of owners just in time for the playoffs. Dulcich has 2 straight tight end 1 finishes, racking up 127 yards on 16 targets in that time. No one allows more points per game to tight ends than Arizona does either, so you can roll him out with confidence and hope for another spike week. David Njoku is next. He is exactly what we thought he was. It took him all of 1 week to shake off that midseason injury rust, and since then, he's had back-to-back top 8 finishes with a score in each game. Njoku has missed 3 games on the year, including the bye, and he is still a top 10 tight end on the year. Pat Freiermuth is my next man up at 8. He is dealing with a foot injury, but he's expected to play against a tough Panthers defense. He's finished in the top 10 in 3 out of his last 4 games, so he is a solid option no matter who ends up playing quarterback for Pittsburgh. Gerald Everett is in at 9. He has 108 yards in his last 2 games with 14 targets, so the opportunity and the production have been there. The Titans also give up 12 points a game to the position, 3rd most in the league. I am buying all the Chargers passing options that I can, especially at this wasteland of a position. Rounding out my top 10 is Evan Engram, who went full on nuclear against Tennessee last week, racking up 15 targets, 11 catches, 162 yards, and a pair of scores. He's been a top 5 guy in back-to-back weeks now, so you almost have to continue to ride him and hope that it continues. But please note, no one allows fewer points per game to the position than Dallas. Dawson Knox is in at 11. He has been the definition of boom or bust over the last 4 weeks, posting finishes of tight end 6, 34, 70, and the overall tight end 4 last week. If you are prepared to deal with the famine, there is also a feast opportunity against Miami. The Dolphins give up the 4th most points per game to tight ends, and Knox has the ability to take advantage of it. The next guy is real tough. I'm gonna give it my best shot. Chigoziem Okonkwo. Gonna go with that. Oko is an ascending talent and has gotten better and better with more opportunities. He's averaging nearly 45 yards receiving over his last 6 games, making him a solid back-end tight end 1 option in week 15. To tier 7 we go. Hunter Henry kicks it off. He has caught 8 balls over his last 3 games, but more importantly, he's been able to turn that into 2 top 12 finishes in his last 3. Vegas is a great matchup here, and with few other options in the receiving game, Henry should be the main beneficiary of a Raiders defense that has been filled with ineptitude. Tyler Conklin is up next. He fell off for a few weeks, but he is back again, and he's seeing massive usage for the Jets. Conklin has 15 targets over his last 2, and that type of volume against Detroit can only lead to production. The last tight end I am looking at is Taysom Hill. He is a terrifying roller coaster to ride, but he has been a top 10 guy twice in the last 3 weeks, and he gets a top 10 matchup here against Atlanta. The Falcons are surrendering nearly 11 points per game to the position, so if Juwan Johnson is out again this week, Hill is a decent option. A couple tight ends that just missed the cut include Foster Morrow against New England, Tyler Higbee traveling to Green Bay, and Jordan Akins against Kansas City. Before I get into my defenses, it is a wonderful time to remind you to please subscribe to the channel and then crush that like button to get this video out to others. And with that done, let's hop into defenses. Tier 1 starts with Kansas City. They travel to Houston to take on the Texans. The Chiefs have posted top 4 finishes in 2 out of their last 3 games, and Houston is the perfect matchup to allow them to continue this streak. Kansas City has racked up 6 sacks, 2 picks, and a tutty against the Broncos, and they could surpass that awesome performance here against the Texans. In at 2, it's the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Seattle. And at 3, I have the Philadelphia Eagles on the road against Chicago. The Green Bay Packers at home against the Rams are at 4. They are the last team in tier number 1. And to round out my top 5, I have the Dallas Cowboys traveling to Jacksonville. They were surprisingly not the best last week against a poor Houston offense, but I do not expect them to sleep here against the Jags. They forced 7 turnovers over their last 2 games, and they probably get a couple of those against Trevor Lawrence and company here. The Denver Broncos are in at 6, and to start tier 3, I have the Buffalo Bills at home against Miami. The Baltimore Ravens travel to Cleveland, they're next at 8, and at 9, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road against Carolina. They've been solid over the past 2 weeks, allowing just 32 points, but the turnovers and the sack numbers have not come, and that has limited their productivity for owners. I think that changes here against the Panthers. They have just not been an offense that you have to fear, and they have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. To round out my top 10 are the New Orleans Saints at home against Atlanta, and at 11 I have the Washington Commanders at home against the Giants. They held this Giants team to just 20 points 2 weeks ago. They posted a top 13 finish in that game, racking up 4 sacks. Now at home, I think they do themselves one better, especially with a banged up Saquon Barkley. At the top of tier 5, the last one I have are my Minnesota Vikings at home against the Colts. Now, I will admit, they are truly and horribly and utterly terrible in real life. But in fantasy land, they've been solid more often than most people realize. The Vikings have 5 finishes in the top 6 on the season, and they have the upside to do that again here against the best possible matchup in Indianapolis. It is likely going to be boom or bust, but a hit here could put your team over the top. The New England Patriots are up next at 13. I have the Carolina Panthers at 14. They get Pittsburgh at home. And the last defense I have in week 15 are the Arizona Cardinals on the road against Denver. Couple teams that just missed the cut include the New York Jets at home against Detroit, the Cleveland Browns at home against Baltimore, and the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Tampa Bay. And that will wrap up my video for today. Really hope you guys enjoyed the content. I hope you learned something and you can use that to go forward, make better decisions, and go get a playoff dub. Drop your comments, drop your questions down below for me. I love to be able to help you out and answer them. Make sure you come back on Saturday. I have updated shorts for all of my positional rankings. So as we get more information throughout the middle to the end of the week, I update my rankings accordingly. You'll be able to get all of what I am thinking on those. If you got 5 extra minutes, check it out on Saturday. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and I will see you next time.